There are a lot of great games out there, and a lot of terrible ones, so I'm going to be looking at whether or not the most recent Shantae game is worth picking up or not. Shantae and the Pirate's Curse was developed by two companies, WayForward Technologies, who have made some fantastic original IPs and a ton of licensed games, and Inti Creates, who made games such as Mega Man 9 and 10. The game starts out with our heroine Shantae, a half-genie who lost her powers in the last game after her arch-nemesis Risky used a magic lamp to steal her magic. Cursed by the lamp, Shantae's magic became this evil copy of our heroine, who, one boss fight later, is defeated, resulting in the loss of Shantae's powers. Now attempting to adjust to life as a human, Shantae is called to action once again when Risky shows up to confront Shantae about her missing weapons and why her henchman is locked up in Mimic's workshop. When the Tinkerbat trapped in the glass is transformed by dark magic into this monstrosity, Risky deduces that the curse came from none other than the Pirate Master, the greatest pirate of his time, who was defeated long ago by the genies, and was Risky's former mentor. With this knowledge in hand, Shantae and Risky reluctantly team up to stop the resurrection of the Pirate Master and gather up the dark magic scattered across the land. Without her powers, Shantae must now rely on the use of Risky's scattered pirate equipment rather than dancing to turn into animals like in the previous games. Don't worry, Risky is definitely fine with it. I think. These pirate tools are amazing in comparison to the dancing of previous games, as they don't require complicated button inputs or waiting for the right time to transform. They could be activated on a whim, which helps to keep the game at a phenomenal fast pace, where you are constantly moving forward, except for the handful of times you need to backtrack to a previous area with newer equipment to advance, which is the standard of this genre. While the whole Shantae series falls into the subgenre of Metroidvania, this game is the least Metroidvania-esque out of them. You do get new equipment to access previously unreachable areas, but this game tends to focus on how the current area challenges you in its own unique way, whether it be running through the forest dodging obstacles and enemies, or using stealth to sneak by palace guards. This game is broken up into 7 self-contained areas you reach by boat. There is the hometown, the tropical island, Zombieland, Not Egypt, Hell, the Ice and Sky world, and the 1-minute cutscene that doesn't count. In each area, Shantae fights enemies by headbanging them to death with her hair as she searches for each area's Den of Evil, the game's equivalent of dungeons. In each Den of Evil, she must gain the new piece of pirate equipment that will allow her to solve the dungeon's gimmick and defeat the boss at the end, much like in the Zelda series. By the time you make it to each area's dungeon, you are greeted with a fun, maze-like area filled with plenty of enemies and a map familiar to any veteran of this genre. As you gain more and more equipment, the dungeons start to become more complex and challenge you with new and difficult platforming that keep the formulaic gameplay from getting stale. The game also supports some fantastic writing, both in its humor and lovable characters, while never getting too serious. Graphically speaking, this game leaves a lot to be desired, especially with how good the upcoming Shantae half-genie hero looks. To the game's benefit though, WayForward's animators took the time to provide plenty of frames of animation for not only Shantae, but all the characters and enemies, adding a lot of life to the game. Even idle background characters move as if to the music, which I must say is fantastic. It was composed by Jake Kaufman, who you may or may not recognize from titles such as Contra 4, Shovel Knight, and DuckTales Remastered. Personally, I think this is his best work, and you should definitely check out the soundtrack if you're looking for something fast-paced and energetic. In terms of voice acting, Shantae only says a few words throughout the whole game, which is a little disappointing, but certainly nothing too bad. She does remind me a bit of Ashley from Resident Evil 4 though.
Rep to go! What is that thing?
The game is sadly quite short, with the first playthrough spanning about 6 hours. It can also be quite frustrating at times with enemy placement and knockback. Overall, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse sets a high bar for the franchise, and as of this moment, is certainly where anyone curious about starting this series should start. It remains a fun, high-octane action platform game with challenging levels and a fun soundtrack with a certain degree of replay value. Now that leaves us with one question. Should you play Shantae and the Pirate's Curse? Yes.